you, but we have a lot of exciting things in public safety. We had already had a day over here scheduled for the canines, which I know is why there's so many people here, not to listen to me, but to see these dogs. But we had even better news, thanks to everybody up here and some others, about part of what was awarded in the state budget is some ShotSpotter technology. I'll allow the sheriff and chief to get into the technical aspects of it. I'm really just kicking this off to give a huge thank you to Governor DeSantis, to Senator Broxson, to Representative Andrade, who really carried the torch for us in making sure that this got done. And I'm also appreciative of the collaboration between the police department and the sheriff's department. This was a conversation that certainly was something we had mutual interest in. And for us to be able to, we were able to collaborate during this process and be able to get a big win for public safety, both in the city of Pensacola and the county. So a huge day for us, and as you'll learn through our experts explaining it and take any questions you have, this technology really will be a game changer for us within the city and in the county. But I just wanted to give our representative, Alex Andrade, a chance to speak as well. So thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks, guys, and I'm very glad that the mayor got the memo about wearing a gray blazer today, so civilians can kind of sort of match like the law enforcement officers in the room. But yeah, so several months back, prior to the legislative session kicking off, Sheriff Simmons got us all together, got folks from every corner of the community together on a gun violence task force roundtable discussion about what we can do in the community to help address gun violence in Escambia County and Pensacola. And one of the things that Chief Randall brought up was, during his time in Savannah, he used this technology called ShotSpotter. What I did not know at the time was how important this technology can be for not only closing out cases, but also for officer safety. But leaving that and thinking what a part-time public servant like I am could do to help, I saw an opportunity because ShotSpotter has been active in the state of Florida, especially in South Florida, and there was some success last year in getting some state funding for the same kind of model. I think what makes this model and this award so unique is it is a relatively small amount of money. It's $850,000 this year to help start this part of the program to go into the real-time crime center. But what made this so impressive and what impressed people in Tallahassee was how collaborative the city of Pensacola and the sheriff's department were in working through this and developing the map for the area that this technology will go. As a layperson, it's a series of microphones that do not monitor actively or surveil people on an active basis. It's a series of microphones that help you triangulate exactly where a gunshot goes off. And what I learned is when it triangulates like that, law enforcement will immediately know exactly where that gunshot goes off. Right now, if a neighbor hears a gunshot, they call the police department, the sheriff's department, or the Pensacola Police Department officer goes to that house. They don't go to where the gunshot went off. They go to the house, and it could be a few blocks away from where that gunfire actually occurred. Now you have the ability as a law enforcement officer to know exactly where it is, to know where you shouldn't be driving blind, to know exactly the safest route to get there, and you are not relying as much on the community to self-report if something's occurring a few blocks away. So I was excited to see how collaborative the community was in getting this funding, and that's about the extent of my technical knowledge of this product. So thanks you all for being here, and I'm just excited that the governor didn't veto it, so thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I do want to mirror what the mayor said and thank you and our local delegation, Michelle Salzman and Doug Broxson, because without our support from our local delegation, it probably wouldn't have went near as far as it did. And Alex, every time we picked up the phone, you knew exactly where it was, and that makes us feel good. It makes us feel good when it's moved on from through the session and then to the governor's desk. Only from a state representative would $800,000 not be a lot of money. Did y'all catch on that? I was like, that's a lot of money for us. So what is it? Alex hit a little bit on it. It is a bunch of sensors in a geographical area, In our case, it is 3 square miles in the county and 3 square miles in the city. If you look at these maps, this map right here is in Mayfair and Montclair. We isolated these two areas. One is 2 miles and one is 1 mile. And we based it upon the larger look here at the county. And this is a heat map, and so it shows where some of our action has been. So clearly we would earmark that as the location for, for us to put a ShotSpotter in our area. And I'll let Chief Randall talk about what they decided and how they decided on the ones in the city. But the ideal plan here is to get this ShotSpotter so that, again, when one single shot is fired, we can get the information before someone decides to call 911. Because it's been my experience that people don't always call 911. They'll lie about it. They'll take themselves to the hospital. And we will never know about it. In this case, again, as mentioned before, when our deputies or police officers are en route, they'll know that a shot has been fired in a certain location, and so the in-car cameras can potentially capture cars that are leaving, even if they don't know what the suspect vehicle is like. So it just gives us that first-hand information. We want to make sure that we make the best use of technology. We've always been kind of on the cutting edge of it, but now this is going to bring us to a whole new level. Because the ShotSpotter programs, the 3 square miles in the county, the 3 square miles that are in the city, will all move into and integrate with our real-time crime center that we're going to open up. That, again, we talk about partnerships. We partnered on this grant, but we also are partnering on the real-time crime center. It will be manned by City of Pensacola Police Department employees and Escambia County Sheriff employees. We'll integrate it with all the cameras in the city and the county. And obviously, ShotSpotter, we're very excited that it will be, when we get the information, we'll be able to activate all these cameras into that direction itself. So it's $800 and some odd thousand. It's 3 square miles in the county, 3 square miles in the city for 2 years. Now, I know one of your questions is going to be, what happens in 2 years? Well, we try to get money in 2 years, and we try to expand it to 3 years or 4 years. We try to get 3 miles into 4 miles, or we move our 3 miles. My hope is that the bad guys won't want to go and shoot up this place right here, because they're going to know that we're watching and we're listening to what's going on, and hopefully they'll let cooler heads prevail and will not have the gunplay that they've had in the past. So I don't want to hog up all the time. I will turn it over to Chief Randall. That's the county version of it. The city version's coming up, and again, I want to echo the fact that this is what collaboration, cooperation looks like. We were able to get the grant because, as Alex mentioned, that everyone was impressed with the fact that we actually worked together. And having been in law enforcement, having been in Tallahassee, been throughout the state of Florida, that doesn't always happen. There's not always a lot of cooperation amongst agencies, amongst governments, and I think that it's much better moving forward because we are all in this together. Chief Randall.
I just want to echo what everybody else has said. We owe a big, great thanks to our state delegation, city and county, state officials, and the mayor as well, and the staff, because we've been working really hard in the county and the city to make sure we reduce gun violence and address gun crimes. ShotSpotter is one of the things that, when I originally came back to Pensacola, I talked about it. Speaking from experience, we had it in the agency where I was back in 2019, where there were a number of cases to be able to solve, and the information and the intelligence that we gathered from it is surmountable important in making reality and changes in communities. ShotSpotter is a tool. It's another tool in our tool belt as we move to take policing into the 21st century. As you can see here at the bottom map is a map of the coverage area for the city. It's 3 square miles. And kind of give you a general overview. It's Tarragona and everything west to the city line. North boundary is going to be Avery Street. South boundary is going to be Main Street. So it covers 3 square miles. And the data that we collected from the information in regards to being able to come up with this coverage area, we utilized data from 2019 all the way up to 2022. Looking at that data, there was about 400 shots fired call here in the city alone. And we looked at that data, extrapolated it down to be able to get the most benefit for our buck on this and the most effective area, which also is our Brownsville area that we're working right now with the Brownsville Guns Violent campaign. So in order to make sure that we're effective, I think it's a great success for the community today to be able to move forward with this technology, the collaboration we have with the Sheriff Department, moving into a real-time crime center, adding the ShotSpotter. I think it's going to be a game changer here in the city of Pensacola, especially from the public safety standpoint, because we are here for you, and this is why we want to do these things, because we want to make it safe for everybody. And with that, I guess we'll take questions now.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'll open up to questions again. I'll let the technical expert speak to it. But before we do, I just want to say it doesn't really matter who the mayor is or the state representative or the city council. What I'll tell you is I can guarantee you for as long as we're around, the number one issue for a city resident and a county resident to feel safe. So, that's what this is really all about, is to be able to provide that. And these guys really said it best. And you think about the true amount of time it takes from what someone may perceive as a shot fired to being on scene and being there. Those are things that these guys know well and have experienced, and to be able to cut that time down significantly is going to lead to so many more positive outcomes for us and positive for the public safety of the city. So what we'll do, take any questions the media may have with this, and then after that we'll continue with the rest of our content. So fire away.
I've got a question for law enforcement.
Okay.
So Mobile, they started using this technology, and they said they're pleased with the results because usually the public doesn't really call in when they hear shots fired. So are you experiencing the same thing? Is this one of the reasons why you're implementing this technology?
Yes. There are a lot of times we get called to a scene and it's not a shots fired. We get a lot of times we get called to a scene and it's some bozo shot himself, and he claims that he got shot from someone else, because it's not cool to say he shot himself in the pinky toe. It's only cool if someone shot him from the outside. So we get this a lot. So it would benefit us greatly if we were able to get out there as soon as we get the information. In fact, we're going to app. Our deputies will have apps. Pensacola police officers will have apps, and they'll get it. The dispatch doesn't even have to dispatch them. They'll see where it is, and if they're right around the corner, maybe they even heard it, and so they'll head to that location, and then they'll get all the information that you can. The investigation starts as soon as they arrive at the scene. Right? They know who's leaving. They see who's there, and then they may well turn that investigation over to an investigator. But initially, those first couple of minutes, those first couple of seconds, really are very, very important. So, this isn't our first time. Chief Randall talked about having it in his other, where he came from, and we are aware of many agencies that use this. And we know the pros, we know some of the cons. It may not be the end-all, be-all, but it is something. It is our use of technology, the latest technology, to incorporate into our other latest technology. And it's, like you said, I think Chief called it a game changer. I think that's what it is going to be. And we're all going to get better. We're going to get more integrated. We're going to be cooperating even more. We're going to work together. So there's no safe haven. If you think you're going to go from the city to the county or the county to the city, we have phones. We pick them up and we call you. And now this is just going to enhance that, so that every bit of information that we need for an investigation, we're already going to have it probably before we even arrive.
Is there a expected timeline for when ShotSpotter will be fully functional in the county and city?
Right now, the timeline will be probably later on in the year, because there are a lot of things we still have to work out with the vendor, selecting sites, doing any type of agreements that need to be done, and being able to deploy it in the most appropriate areas that we have here to make sure the sensors are working properly, and then all the testing and things that go with it. So I'll say probably in the later part of the year. And to go back to your question about calls for shootings, current data shows just in America about 80% of gunshot calls go unreported to the police. So that's why I say this is a game changer. When someone fires a gun, they can expect the police to respond and do what they do.
Sheriff, Chief, any updates on the Brownsville Gun Violence Task Force today?
Well, the updates are that we're doing very well. I think if you recall, I called for the roundtable to bring as many entities as we can to address some of the things that we're seeing. It went so well, we had another meeting and then a third meeting, and we said, you know what, why don't we have this location, let's earmark a geographical location, and let's see what resources we can bring, whether it's the City of Pensacola, the police department, the sheriff's office, code enforcement, whether it's Florida Power and Light. There's a number of different things that we wanted to put into this area as a beta site or a pilot location, because we think what happens in Brownsville can also happen in different locations, maybe one of these 6 square mile locations. So the quick answer is the last update I got was our deputies are out there so much it's a ghost town in Brownsville. Now that's what we wanted. Obviously, we don't want more than that. But what we're going to do is in about 2 weeks, I think we're going to have a closeout meeting, and we're going to talk about some of the successes that we've had, what has happened, how many tickets, how many warrants, how many how many arrests, how many times we encounter an individual, maybe a suspicious person. I think that the numbers are going to show that there's a lot of proactivity amongst law enforcement agencies. I think it's also going to show that not a lot went on. And that's a good thing, right? But what we really want to do is see how portable this is. Can we take this somewhere else? Can we scale it to some other larger or smaller locations? So that's the beauty of the roundtables themselves, because we actually did something. We're going to talk about what we did, and then we're going to pick it apart and see what we can use in another location.
Chief Randall, so you've been wanting this technology for a while, so could you just reiterate what would this mean for crime fighting for here in Pensacola?
Well, haven't been running here in Pensacola, but where I was in Virginia, and I tell you, it was. When I talk about game changer, I really truly mean it's a game changer, because, not only did we have buy-in from the community, but we had buy-in from the officers itself. It was truly rewarding to see when a ShotSpotter activation went off on my phone when I was in a group of people, to watch the officers take a look at it, respond to it, or to get on scene and watch them look at the map that's depicted on their phone and look in the search for shell casing to find evidence. And when you take the evidence and the technology and you wrap that into a whole package of law enforcement technologies, I mean, you can truly make a difference in a neighborhood, in a community, in a city, in a county.
All right, thank you so much, guys. Yeah, if you don't have anything else, we'll let Representative Andrade and Sheriff Simmons head on out of here. But thank you guys so much, and thank you so much for the collaboration and all the effort. All right, do we have our next group of VIPs? While we're getting them loaded up, I'm also going to invite up I have a mayor for the day with me today, Daniel Smith. Come up. We promise you're not going to test anything here. You can just come hang out up here. You want to slide on this way? Or if one needs to come on, if you want to come on this side.
Are you good there? He's good. He's good there.
He's good where he is. Okay. All right. Yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm going to quickly turn it over to Deputy Chief to, again, do this really the same thing I did as a lot of thank yous for 4 new officers that you see up here. I've been excited to do this. I've probably annoyed Casey and Laura more about this press conference than any other, about getting to introduce these guys. So you have in front of you, you've got K9 Bear, K9 Bo, K9 Sino, and K9 Jax. And I will let Deputy Chief, I want to certainly say thank you to the Bear Family Foundation and to Hanto and Clark for their donations. And I'll let the deputy chief tell you a little bit more about our new officers. But an exciting day for the police department. They have been on duty for around a month or so. But anyway, wanted to make sure that we gave them their public recognition and their just due for being part of our team. So anyway, I'll pass it off to Deputy Chief. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So today we'd just like to introduce our 4 furriest new police officers. Canine Bear, raise your hand. No, the dog. It's Officer Molinik with Canine Bear. Canine Bear is a 1.5-year-old Belgian Malinois. His handler is Officer Madison Molinik. This is his first canine, and Canine Bear was paid for through a donation by the Bear Family Foundation to the Pensacola Finest Foundation, and it was one of the last donations made by the Bear family just before the death of the patriarch Louis Bear Jr. So we're very, very proud to have Bear on board, and we're very thankful to the entire Bear family for their donation and making this possible. Canine Bear is certified in narcotics detection, tracking, and criminal apprehension. So don't run. Canine Bo. Is he going to speak? Is he going to say hi? He's thinking about it. He's a whisperer. He's quiet. Canine Bo is a 2-year-old Belgian Shepherd. His officer is Carissa Morales. And Canine Bo is paid for through a donation by Hanto and Clark to the Pensacola Finest Foundation. So we are again in debt to Hanto and Clark for your contribution to helping make Pensacola safer. And Canine Bo is named in honor of Officer Archie Bowman, who was killed in the line of duty August 19th of 1938. Canine Bo is certified in narcotics detection, tracking, and criminal apprehension. We have the antisocial one of the bunch over there, Canine Sino. It's very intense. He's a 1.5-year-old German Shepherd. His handler is Officer Zach Harris, who has his second canine. You all right there, buddy? All right. Canine Sino is certified in narcotics detection, tracking, and apprehension. And Sino's the very end there. And last but certainly not least, we have Canine Jax. He's a 1.5-year-old Belgian Malinois. His handler is Sergeant James Parson, who is not here today, but Officer Abed is ably filling in with Jax today. And Jax was actually donated by Sergeant Parsons to the department. And Jax, you may, if you've been around for a little bit, if you remember Canine Giannis, who was very photogenic, took lots of pictures, Jax is Canine Giannis' son. And Jax is dual certified in narcotics detection and tracking. And again, two of these dogs were purchased entirely from donations from the Bear family and from Hanto and Clark. And again, through the Pensacola Finest Foundation, we cannot say thank you enough. These dogs are an invaluable tool to public safety. They are able to not just find suspects and find drugs and those kind of things, but they go a long way into protecting our police officers. They are invaluable in that aspect of the protection that they provide to our handlers. And they go out there to find bad guys. We find missing persons with them. We found missing kids, Alzheimer's patients who walk away. So the dogs you see here today, it's immeasurable the amount of police work that those four-legged friends of ours are going to do. That it's just, you can't measure it, what they do in our community. We could give you a list, we could give you numbers, but their impact is something that you just can't measure. So we're grateful to have them. We're grateful to those donations that got them to us, and we're glad to have them on the street. Any questions for our canines?
I was going to say, any questions you have for Deputy Chief, the dogs? I've no comment from them.
Except the one at the end, he's very...
If there aren't any questions, we're going to bring Captain Goss up here with a pork chop. So show you an exhibition if you don't mind. But no, yeah, any questions you guys have about the dogs? Just pictures. Perfect.
Just pictures. Everybody loves pictures of the dogs.
Well, again, thank you so much to the Pensacola's Finest Foundation, the Bear family, Hanto and Clark, to help keep our community safer today, safer this month than it was last month. And that's, again, whether it's ShotSpotter technology or it's these guys up here. That is our primary focus, and without safety in our community, we have nothing. No economic development, no job creation, none of the things that are important to the vibrancy of the city without it feeling safe and being safe. So thank you guys. Round of applause for our dogs and our officers. All right.
Say hi.
Want to say hi? I'm not the test.
That's the guy who signs the checks for the food. So it's,
Yeah, Goss might have put something in my pocket. I didn't check when I walked up here. All right. Yeah, you want to get any photos or anything?
we'll keep them around if y'all want to do photos after.
Okay.
And talk to the handlers. We'll keep them around.
Awesome.
Mayor, it's finally happened. Gone with the dogs.
I know, that's right.
Every sheriff stage with a dog.
That's right. All right, I know we want to get to photos of dogs. I'm going to be real brief. A few things. Want to give some quick feedback on the severe weather, and give a huge kudos to our team, including the police department. The police department, our fire department, public works staff. Actually, David Forte and I were talking about, we're compiling a list of just all the people it take to have, when you take on over a foot of rain in a shorter period of time, how many people step up for the city of Pensacola, and it's more than you'd ever imagine, to go out and close streets, to go out and start fixing intersections as we have been doing all weekend ever since it happened. The two intersections that we've had the biggest issues with in the city are Langley Avenue at Davis, down there at the bottom of the hill on Langley. It's back open to traffic, but sidewalk repairs are starting today. And then 16th and Chahar, the intersection was stabilized Friday, and additional repairs begin today. And we expect those to take about 4 weeks. So bear with us in terms of getting that fixed completely. But both intersections are open. No injuries reported within the city limits during all of that weather. And I know we got very fortunate on Friday. We expected, after all of that rain, there were two more opportunities as storms rolled in with saturated ground that could have had straight line winds and significant rain, and we were spared. So that was really big for us as we tried to manage, again, 12.5 inches of rain at City Hall, 9.23 inches at the airport during, I believe, a 12-hour stretch. So as far as I believe the only other closure we had some issues at Bayview Park. And our goal is to have some of those within the building itself, outdoor pursuits, all of that, to be open hopefully by this weekend. There was a question about Operation Brownsville. I know on the city side I've got those numbers. Last week, June 11 to 17, 268 calls for service, 8 arrests, 27 offense reports, and 6 code enforcement cases is what we had on the PPD side of Operation Brownsville. I know our donut strike for Manus kicks off tomorrow. And they're going on strike against their beloved donuts. They don't know if the canines are, but I know the humans are. Wednesday, June 21st to Friday, June 23rd, to help collect donations for Manna and provide healthy meals for children and families in need. They do a great job every year. I've gotten to visit every year, at least for the last several, somewhere, a grocery store or something to check out. So make sure that you do that. And if you go to manahelps.org, you can figure out all the store locations where you can donate. So I certainly ask the public to be involved in that. Tonight, 6:30 to 7:30 at Vickery, 2130 Summit Boulevard, is our second lane repurposing feasibility study. There's conversations about what the future could be at Summit Boulevard. I'll say what I said before the first one, which is there's no guarantee that anything will change. There is no construction money in place at this point, but led by Councilman Moore, and it started in the previous administration with some conversation around what to do and what the data suggests with 4 lanes of a divided highway at Summit Boulevard. And what the future may hold. So I know there were 6 concepts that were discussed in the first meeting. I believe they've had it honed down to 3. So we'll have another conversation with the public, 6:30 tonight at Vickery. We have 2 new all-way stops coming on Government Boulevard. One at Roosin Government, which would be the northwest corner of where City Hall is, which is currently a 2-way. So Government, you go through right now, east and west, there's signage out. And we're also looking at so a couple other potentially, there's been conversation, if you've lived here a long time, there's been conversation potentially about Jefferson and Government. That's the one right by Seville Quarter that people stop at anyway, even though they aren't supposed to stop because they don't know. The confusion of that, it kind of feels like a four-way stop. So I know that's something that we're looking at, but we are underway Thursday, June 22nd, to make Roos and Government Street a four-way stop. The last thing, neighborhood cleanup on June 24th, which is the Sanders Beach, Bayou Grove, and West Garden District neighborhoods. And make sure you visit. You should have gotten my mug on a piece of mail and telling you that you are in the area. If you're not sure, it sounds close to your house, make sure you go to cityofpensacola.com. You can check the map and see if you're in that cleanup area. Last thing, just briefly, I've been asked about it a couple times this week, over the weekend. Great trip to Washington, D.C., met with several congressional leaders, including folks on the Transportation Committee, that the vast majority of which are from Florida, and had a lot of great meetings. And the focus from a topical standpoint is to figure out how to start putting the funding together for the new terminal at the airport. We are fortunate and thankful to FDOT that when I got in office, we were able to secure $2 million to start the design process. That has started. They're in the process of selecting who that designer will be, and the expectation is that that selection will be complete this summer. So by the end of the summer, we'll call it a 12-month process of design as a whole. We should be in position for the second half of 2024 to be under construction, but the work for that starts today, not a year from now. And so if we want to be in a position to not have a design waiting on funding, then we got to get to work. So we were able to go up there. We took 16 meetings in 2 days at the Capitol and squeezed them nicely between an agenda conference and a city council meeting last week. So a little bit hectic, but definitely worth it. And we were also able to meet with national staff and regional staff at FAA. So we certainly know we were able to prove demand. There was no question about that. It's just a competitive process. And so we expect the job to be somewhere between $65 and $70 million, and we're looking for a third of that funding to come from FAA federal sources, a third of that at the state level, and then locally between bonding and other sources that we would figure out the last third here locally. So that's where we are. That's why I was up there, as well as to continue to build relationships for the needs of this city long term. And that's, as I say, the political part of this job is to be in Tallahassee and be in Washington as many times as we need to be to make sure that we're successful. So we'll go up there on the blink of an eye if that means bringing $22 million to the city of Pensacola and to get us a new terminal that we desperately need. The stat that stuck with most of the congressional leaders we talked to was the idea that I've mentioned, I think, to some of you already, that we've had the same number of gates that we had a little over 10 years ago, and we now have 1 million more passengers going through those gates. So 11 gates, 1 million more people than we had a decade ago. So the time is really beyond now to have this done, and we'll continue to work hard and at both the state and federal level to make that happen. So that is all I have. Any other questions before we? Yeah, go ahead.
Mayor, that is ambitious, productive meetings in Washington. Those schedules don't come together easily. Do you have does the city have representation in Washington? And
Yeah,
so who is it and who are we paying for that?
Yep. So Dan McFall is at Ballard, has been the city's lobbyist for a long time. We're very fortunate to have him. He's a Pensacola native. Both at the federal and state, but Dan McFall is at the federal level. Dan's from here. Worked for Jeff Miller for many, many years, for Joe Scarborough. Is very familiar with this, and he is a huge resource for us. And there's nothing like having someone advocating for you up there that lives and loves this community the way we do. That is not a guarantee, and that's an outlier for us. So we punch above our weight class federally because we have someone who represents us that has passion to make sure that this community is successful. So you're absolutely right. That's not something we could do on our own. We don't set 16 meetings on Capitol Hill in a 30-hour stretch without some help and someone with connections to make sure we're in front of the right folks.
Going back to severe weather, I understand 12.5 inches of rain was pretty overwhelming. So are there any plans in place now to address infrastructure and address drainage to prevent this from happening again? Because there were many flooded areas with this amount of rain.
Yeah, I mean, two things come to mind. Number one, we actually today had the Department of Economic Opportunity in from Tallahassee. We had 4 people here doing on-site visits for those CDBG infrastructure projects that we've discussed. You probably remember most the Hollis T. Williams project, which is focused on stormwater and a desperate need we have for it. We've asked for $36.4 million for what could be a generational project. Something we actually have been talking about under the interstate since 2004, 20 years. And certainly I've conveyed that to them many times today, of just not only how important we know that area and how much it floods, we know that it's in a designated flood area. So I would say on the front end, that's some of the efforts that we have, and that would be a significant one. I would say long term, we have to have real conversations as a community about we all felt it in some way. We know someone whose house or the business was flooded in an event like this, in something like 2014, in something like Hurricane Sally. The reality is right now we're easily 30% under what has been suggested for our stormwater assessment. As an example, right now it's $80. In 2021, it was suggested that it was $100. So you can pretty much assure with inflation and other things that it's probably $110, I'm guessing. So we're significant. You're talking about a 30% gap in what is suggested we are at to even just tread water in terms of stormwater assessment. So those are things that we have to start having real conversations about. No one likes an assessment to go up, but those are conversations we're going to have to start to have if we want to make sure that our homes aren't flooding and that our businesses aren't flooding. So long way to go on that. That's a long process, but those are things that come top of mind in conversations that we're having because I've polled the community in a lot of different ways over the years, and I can tell you our city uniquely cares very much about stormwater, and because we felt the pain of it several times, not just through hurricanes, through floods. So you normally think that isn't something that's on top of mind for a citizen, and probably in most cities it isn't. We talk about public safety, we talk about affordable housing. Those are important for our citizens, but I can tell you stormwater ranks significantly higher here than it does in many communities across this country because of what's happened here and what we've experienced.
2 more questions.
Yeah.
Would you be able to tell me how old our current system is for Zoom?
It's kind of hard to define it that way. We've got different parts, different sections that have been updated at different times. I can say we're not sitting on our hands. We do have 2 projects, 9th Avenue and downtown, with some ARPA funding that are underway. So we continue to be as relentless as we can to fixing these issues. And we've got a great team at Public Works that do the best that we can. We're having meetings with folks just every possible way we can attack this. Looking at, especially when you get into an example is Main Street, the letter streets south of Garden, north of Main. When we have a hard rain, even for a couple hours, we've got to shut streets down. We definitely have some pain points, and so in terms of it's hard to classify a specific age of the system, but I can tell you we're working at it every day.
Last question. So, what message do you have for people that have been impacted from the recent flooding? I know the Warrenton area, they consistently had flooding issues. So, what is your message for them, and is there any some sort of relief for them?
I would have to see specific areas, and in the county, you'd have to speak with them. But what I can say from our side is, our response from Chief Craner, who leads our emergency operations, on down to Public Works, to Parks and Rec. This really being the first experience I've had in this position with this. I couldn't be more proud and more impressed with the effort that we've had to help people, to make sure everyone's okay. We did have one call for rescue, I believe, on Gilmard Street that the police had. We had 3 fires based on all the lightning that we had. We had 3 fires going. As well as just our normal trying to make sure that roads are up and running. So I can tell you that we certainly put our best foot forward, and we're just thankful we had no injuries, employees or citizens in the city limits. And I feel really confident moving forward as we start to deal with more issues that we know will come one way or another, that we're prepared and ready to go.
Mayor, can you give us a little bit of insight into what was going on at the Maxwell Center during the flooding? You've talked to Vinny Wibbs about that. I understand it was reported that your public safety people evacuated residents, I suppose, during the rain event.
Yeah, we did get an update from Vinny the following day with evacuations at the Maxwell Center. It is in part of the Hollis T. Williams conversation is in that low-lying area. I know American Red Cross, I just was sharing emails with them that stepped up for us, to help both those and other folks in the county that have been negatively, adversely impacted by this. You'd have to probably ask Vinny on specific details, the timeline and all of that. But yes, we were made aware of that. And certainly we're again at the ready to do what we can to be helpful. But do appreciate both Vinny and the Red Cross for stepping in and making sure that we could get those folks under a roof and in a safe place. Yeah.
One more public safety. The Pensacola Police Department made a fairly quick arrest on the Government Jefferson Street shooting incident.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the police deputy chief or somebody could give us a little bit more detail about what was going on down there and what the motives. I'm not, anything he could share with us on that. It was a fairly quick roll up, but who were these people? Were they, what can you tell us about the incident?
Yeah, we've made 2 arrests in that case. I anticipate those are the only 2 arrests we'll make. Based on the evidence we have both people that were involved in the shooting. As far as motive, it'd be completely speculative, but from what I know of the case, it was absolutely senseless. No rhyme or reason. But we can get you, I believe those names have been released. If they haven't, we can get those back out to you if you need anything. But yeah, just
did these guys know each other?
I don't have any information on that, whether they were known to each other before that night or if they met that night. I don't have that information. What I can tell you is that once we had information developed on what we were looking for, vehicles and things like that, it was an astute patrol officer who recognized a vehicle and one of the subjects involved that led to that coming to resolution very, very quickly. So, it's not just responding to the calls day after day. It's those officers remember where they've been and who they've dealt with, the kind of cars they're driving, and that led to a very, very quick resolution to that case based on, good police work and good cops doing good cop stuff. Anything else?
Yeah, and before we wrap up, just a huge thank you. I think it was 44 hours from the time of the shooting to having arrests. And you think about what you just heard at the beginning of today, which is these are police officers who made arrests, not knowing whether it's called in or not, where it's located, and you think about the time elapsed between a shot being fired at 3:49 in the morning and when someone is actually on site there, and even the difference in that that someone was able to be there in a matter of seconds or a minute or two. So amazing police work by our guys, and same thing. I certainly was apprised through that process, and just always impressed. Never cease to amaze me how great a work we do here, and I think amazing police work to have something like that happen when it did, where it did, and to have come to closure in that amount of time. So, all right, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. And if you have any tough questions, Mayor Daniel for the day is here. So.